Something in patch 6.18. I guess I need to see if this is the one that Worlds is going to be played on. Let me just read the first sentence. Welcome to patch 6.18, the one that Worlds will be playing on. Okay, so this is our Worlds patch. Means I don't want crazy meta breaking patches. However, I like to see nerfs onto maybe some champions that are too good at the moment, as well as opening up for. I'd like there to be as open of a playing field as possible on multiple roles. So, when I see Reksai, I think he's super good right now. And I think that Vladimir is another case where of a champion that is very easy to play and still very, very good at what he does. So this patch, I hope it smooths out a lot of champions, maybe raises some champion strengths relatively up a little bit. However, I don't want to buff any champions that are already good, or maybe like in the middle. I'd prefer this patch just be about stabilizing, I guess is the best way to put it. Anyways, let's keep going on to patch 6.18. So let's go figure out what they do. Great. Yorick, we'll talk about him later. Ashe. So Ashe is one of the 3 ADs that got nerfed, and I think she actually got like pretty low nerfs actually. The last patch, she got base damage nerfed on her ulti, as well as her Q was 1 second off in terms of duration. And I'm surprised they're buffing her again. I think Ashe doesn't really necessarily need a buff. And I think that it's really surprising that they decided to buff a champion that already sees so much play. Really surprising, actually super surprising that Ashe gets buffed here. I don't think she needed this at all. Sol, so they fixed the Aurelion Sol bug. Okay, so they fixed the TSM bug where Aurelion Sol got remade. That's really good. So CLG can actually play their signature champion, and I like it. Oh, sorry. The Ashe cooldown buff is a nerf. I apologize. I misread it twice. I thought it was a buff, but it's actually a nerf. I actually think that's fine. I think Ashe is probably the best AD at the moment by a slim margin. You're still going to see the same three ADs as before, so you're going to see Ashe, Sivir, and Jhin. However, the relative strength of Ezreal is rising in terms of power, especially due to his recent passive buffs as well as the nerfs to the other ADs. So I don't think this is that bad. I think Ashe. This is actually a pretty good nerf for Ashe. Apologize, messed up completely. Anyways, pause the tape. Let's redo it. Let's keep going. Aurelion Sol. This is really good. The only problem I don't have a problem with this. Actually, I think this is good that they fixed this. There's just a lot of other bugs in the game that I feel like aren't going to be fixed until it gets bugged in pro play. This Aurelion Sol bug has been literally in the game since the release of the champion, from what I've been told. And I think that it really sucks that we need it to literally bug out in an important playoff match or important season match for it to be fixed. And I think that I understand that Ryze does have infinite manpower. It just kind of sucks from my perspective. Anyways, keep going. Ekko. Ekko's really strong top lane. He's currently rolling Triforce into a bunch of tank items. I think they keep wanting to push him away from his AD build, which I think is correct because he should technically be an AP assassin. However, even without any AD ratios on his kit, he keeps being played top lane AD because he just has a lot of traits that diving bruisers want. In really safe ability to dive, really good laning phase, good ability to shove, really nice harass and trading. And so I think base AD is probably a good place for them to nerf it. I don't think Ekko top lane is too much of a problem. He's pretty strong, but I'd like to see AP Ekko be more prevalent than Triforce Ekko or AD Ekko in some way, shape, or form. That's just my personal one. Gnar, okay. So people always ask me, why did Gnar see a lot of play? Well, that's because at the time before, Riot thought that Gnar was in a bad spot, and they gave him a buff on his W, and that was like the slider for Gnar to be like too good, or like they make him from like good to great. I think that alongside with a lot of other top lane champion nerfs, the current like top lane meta at the time was I think Fiora plus some other champion. I think it's Fiora, Ekko, and a bunch of other champions. That and the fact that you can't really lane swap anymore. So Gnar being a really, really good lane bully champion or like really dominant in lane is able to really excel because of all the other nerfs plus the buff on Gnar. I think the Gnar W buff was something that wasn't necessary. I'm happy to see him get some nerfs here because I think that Gnar is a little bit too good right now. what did he get? He got base damage nerf on his W, and his cooldown on his E goes up. I think that's really big, actually. The fact that the starting E cooldown is 22. Notice E is the ability you max last. So even because you go cleaver, you only have 20% CDR, meaning your jump is only going to be like 16 seconds, maybe 16, 17 seconds. I think that nerf is actually really, really good. Gnar has to be really focused on how he wants to initiate, because if he messes up an E, then he's kind of like stationary for the entire team fight. I like the way they nerfed this, actually. It's pretty good. Let's move on. So Lissandra, health per level down. Lissandra ult's probably one of the most defensive ultis of our burst mages. I don't necessarily know if she needed stat growth decrease. I think the proto belt build with Lissandra kind of made her not only a strong initiator and defensive champion, but she's just really good at bursting people down. And this is an offshoot because that build exists. I think with really good play, this isn't that much of a problem, but especially the recent follow-up to Lissandra ulti is a lot better. With the inclusion of Jhin, if you Lissandra ulti someone, Jin's the ability to immediately follow up, or Sivir's ability to ulti and follow up the Lissandra makes... It's not that the champion itself is too strong, it's like the stuff you can build around her is too good. I don't necessarily know if Lissandra needed a nerf. In fact, I think that maybe I'm hesitant to say that she did, but at least it wasn't too big of a nerf. It sucks, but it's not too bad, because you'll be going either Proto Belt, Roa, or Zhonya's on the champ anyways. First thing, Lulu. Okay. Oh, so they buffed her before, but it was bugged. So now they didn't. It wasn't in the game, so they put it back to the same equation. I think no one's playing Lulu right now. There's just better supports. Lulu is really strong in the anti-dive meta. It's really, really good against assassins. So when champions like Fizz were being played, Zed was being played, Lulu was God. But none of those champions are good right now because they're just not very good. And because of that, Lulu's relative value decreases. I think Karma really took up Lulu's strength. Because she's she's a champion that can protect against dives. That's also very, very good at laning. And so I don't really think there's a spot for Lulu anywhere in terms of either in the lane, because she's not very good against the current laners, Vladimir, Cassio, and I don't think she can really support that well either. Okay, let's move on. Lux. I think Lux is not that good, but she's okay. She's one of the few champions that can reach backline. She's decent in poke comps, brings a lot of utility. I saw a Froggen player, didn't think it was that bad when he did, and Lux got a little bit of a utility buff. I don't think necessarily this really changes her relative strength. I don't expect to see much Lux at Worlds at all. However, it's just a nice, like, small mini utility buff for her. It's fine. I think that's good, because she's not very good right now, and she's being brought up a little bit. MF, a champion also that's really bad right now. It doesn't see much play. What is she doing? Her damage to turrets is going up. Means she can push towers a little bit faster. Okay. I think that's okay. If you're able to really pressure... I don't think MF is too good right now, but her damage is good. Like, her ulti damage is relatively good. This gives her a little bit more power in terms of pushing. I don't really think it'll do anything. Let's keep moving. Nocturne. Terrified duration increase. Ooh. CC duration increase. I haven't seen a CC duration increase in a long time, especially one that's like a relative hard CC. So it goes up by 0.25 seconds. It'll help him secure more kills. I think it is maxed. I think it's maxed second. It's either maxed second or last. I don't remember which it is. But if it's maxed second, 2.25 seconds is a really, really long time. I think Nocturne just really cements Nocturne more as like a very strong champion at being able to isolate a team and then setting up for his team to come in afterwards. And he's really good at picking off relative stray champions, like for instance AD carries that love to farm side lanes. I think, yeah, Nocturne's not very good right now. This buff is pretty nice. Oh, especially it seems like I'm being told that you max E second, so yeah, it seems like a relatively good buff. Reksai, now this champion, this champion is a really big offender in competitive play. He's gotten, I think, 7 consecutive nerfs and still good. So what makes him really good is he can wave clear very, very well. Not only is his wave clear extremely good, he also has really good global map pressure. You can make a play on one side of the map, immediately ulti to the other side of the map, and he ganks very well. I think when I thought about this champion, I thought that they need to nerf some component of the 3. So either increase the ulti cooldown, they could increase either the ulti cooldown, they could shorten the E distance, that would make it so his ganks aren't as good, or they could nerf his clearing. So either his like base damage or his armor. I think Reksai does a lot of damage without building any damage items. Like really just having the Tiamat upgrade. I think that's pretty crazy. So what did they decide to do with it? They nerfed a lot of base armor and a lot of armor, his armor growth. 4 armor is actually quite a bit. I think this is really nice because it means that Reksai's clear isn't fully sustainable, and this hit targets the clearing aspect of Reksai that makes him good. Last patch they nerfed the global pressure, which is his ulti nerf, and this is definitely a step more in the right direction. I don't want to make Reksai unviable, and he's still probably going to be played, honestly, because his champion's still really good. But this is, I think, a very good change. Ryze, when I played Ryze, I didn't think Ryze was very good. Comparatively to old Ryze. However, I thought he had a lot of potential. Recently, I saw, like, for instance, European players, Exile and Exile, I think his name is Exile, play a lot of Ryze. His Ryze is really, really good. I think Ryze is a good champion, but not as good as his old iteration. However, that's fine because his old iteration was disgustingly broken. So what did they do with this? Range indicator tooltip has been updated. Okay, so nothing changed. I think Ryze, you might see some Ryze play at Worlds because Ryze is in a decent spot right now. Shen. So I think Shen is a very safe top laner right now. And probably with the Gnar getting nerfed a little bit, Shen is one of the champions that tends to... There's like a trifecta top lane of Gnar, Shen, Gameplank is what you see the most. And I think that if you nerf one, you have to worry about the other couple champions as well. And so what they did is they decided to nerf some of his in-lane sustain and trade off for and his Q damage. So his actual 1v1 damage, so it's a sustain. They need to be a little bit worried about this because if he can't scrap people, then the champion itself isn't good. Like if he can't at least lane a little bit, the champion itself has problems. However, I don't think these nerfs are too overboard. I'm okay with them. Okay, let's talk Taliah. So way back when Taliah started seeing a little bit of play, I remember I was playing Taliah and then all of a sudden Bjergsen pulls her out because he played 50 Taliah games in solo queue. People ask me why did I think Taliah was suddenly seeing a lot of buffs. Well, I thought that when I first started playing her, people were alternating between maxing E and maxing Q. And the reasoning is because E was really, really consistent wave clear, and Q was a lot more skillful, like a lot harder to play. However, I think Riot in general was like, look, E maxing is not how we want this champion to play out. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make Q do more minion damage. So when I first read that was going to happen, I was like, okay, so they're going to give her like 10-20% minion damage. No, they gave her 50%, which is an insane, ridiculous number. And people didn't really catch on to how strong she was up until they played her and realized she can clear backline at level 1, which is absurd in terms of like the ability to control the wave and harass from like a good distance. So that's part of what makes her very, very good. I think that by nerfing her damage from 50 or her wave clear from 50% to 0 is quite extreme. I would have been okay leaving it to something like a 20% because I don't think 50 like I think going all the way essentially changes how you lane with the champion completely. On top of that, they're also nerfing her E by 30 base. That's a lot, like a decent amount. I'm surprised they went through with both of these nerfs at the same time. I would have preferred to leave a little bit of bonus damage left on the minions because I do think that maxing E is not it doesn't make Taliah that enjoyable. Like I think it's more fun to max Q, and not that I think that E max will happen anymore. However, she's definitely going to lose a lot of what made her very good because she technically took up Twisted Fate's spot in the meta. Unless your team was very, very good at playing TF. Usually most teams play Taliah because she was good at being able to shove in and roam, and essentially her ulti was TF ulti. So her trade-off was that she didn't have as consistent of ganks because you don't have single target CC that's like essentially undodgeable with flash. But her laning phase was way, 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 way better. And now I think that she no longer has this. I don't know how much play. She'll still probably see a decent amount of play because she's still relatively a good champion. But you might see some more TF play because of it, because she did kind of push TF off to the side, at least for a lot of different teams. Vladimir, this is the main problem I have with mid lane. I think the problem with Vladimir isn't necessarily that I think the fact that he can do so much damage and his play pattern is very easy is relatively a bad thing. I don't mind if people like outskill me and it's like crazy, like they're playing out of their mind to like do like this insane combo on me, and I position very poorly so they capitalize on it. With Vlad, it's more like if I position poorly, I get really punished. If I position normally, I still get zoned unless I'm playing a good matchup with something like Cassio with blue buff, or essentially something with blue buff. Whenever we're balancing resourceless champions that have sustain, it's very, 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 very difficult. And so I thought that I don't know what they were going to do with this. I didn't necessarily think that the Q needed to be nerfed. I think that if Vladimir had some sort of problem, it was the fact that he scaled also really, really well with CDR and with all the general items in the game at the moment. I think that Tides of Blood nerf is really important. So the cooldown nerf early helps out a lot, meaning that he can't hit this mid game spike around like level 9 where he just dominates all the mid game fights. Especially if he misses E, I think that it should be really punishing for him. And the fact that he also got nerfed on it helped the damage conversion is really good because it just does less damage as well. I think I really like the way they nerfed the E here and his actual damage. I think Vladimir at the moment, I talked to Pobutter about it, and generally the way that he sees it is that Vladimir with perfect play, Vladimir isn't that good. If he's even or behind, Vladimir is just a whatever champion. However, in a lot of situations, Vladimir just gets randomly ahead. Like you fail a gank, or he gets a gank, or you guys mess up a dive and he picks up a kill. In a situation where Vladimir is ahead, then there's a problem. Like he's extremely, extremely good. And so I think this tones him down to a level where he won't be like super god mode, and it won't be a problem if you want to trade away Vladimir for, let's say, Cassiopeia or even maybe Taliah. I think this is good. I really like the nerfs on to the champion. Alright, let's talk about Yasuo. Okay, so the biggest problem with Yasuo is I think the champion itself should be a damage dealing champion. When you play him, there should be a lot of inherent risk to playing him because he's a very flashy champion that moves like the wind through the creeps, like cuts you down and escapes. I think that's cool. I like the idea. I like his kit. I think everything's great. However, I think the item build that makes him really good right now is the PD Mallet build, and it just makes him very, very, very tanky. I don't think the champion should be able to be that tanky while also be doing the extremely high amount of damage, because I'd like there to be some sort of Yasuo change to where that build isn't the most optimal build and not the one I see every single game. Let's see what happens. So you got base attack speed buff and attack speed growth stat decreased. So he scales better with attack speed items. Okay, and his ulti got fixed the bug where he gets an extra basic auto, as well as the fact that the bonus armor pen. Wow, the bonus armor pen only applies to Yasuo crits? Ooh, okay. So it means that he can't just burn through tanks with just his normal damage items. I think that's a good way to nerf him, or like a really good way to do this. I think that I don't necessarily know if this is a big deal, because even when you're playing damage Yasuo, I think the most you ever go in terms of attack speed items is you'll go Bork plus a Zeal item. However, that's like pretty excessive. Like usually your builds go like Shiv IE or Shiv IE Thirst or something along the lines of that. However, I think the bonus armor penetration only applying to his crits really tries to shave away his extra damage when you go tanky. I think honestly this is gonna sound bad. I think he's still gonna be good going the tanky build because you still get a PD in that build. That's a decent amount of crit, but I like that it does encourage a little bit moving more toward the damage oriented thing. I just don't know if it's enough. It doesn't look to me like you would change the build that badly. But maybe I just really underestimate the attack speed scaling or the value of a damage items on the Yasuo at the moment. Okay, Frozen Mallet. Ooh, okay, so they nerfed this item as well. Oh, okay, so they nerfed the AD given by the Mallet and increased the health, so it's less of a damage-oriented item, more of a tanky alternative. I guess this also kind of cuts into Yasuo's relative power as well. The gold doesn't change. You just trade off 10 AD for 50 health. I don't actually think that's a good trade. I think the 10 AD is better, so it's a slight nerf to Frozen Mallet. Okay. I think that's reasonable. There are a couple offenders to this champion, or sorry, to this item. Relic Shield. Spoils of War heals for less. Tank supports have been muscling out their more fragile counterparts. We don't think they're too far out of balance, but Relic Shield's heal proc was covering too much of their intended vulnerability, and so their heal get nerfed by 5. I don't think this will do anything. I think this is a very, very, very small nerf on... I think necessarily it might be true that tank supports are doing better, but they really had to reach for stuff to, if this was the ability to solve it. I think they couldn't find a better solution to tank supports being better, and so this was kind of their band-aid fix to, well, we know they're strong, but we don't have, there's not a great solution we can put in the meantime. I see it, I think that it's very, very, like, mediocre, but it's okay. Invulnerability HUD. Oh, that's nice. I always liked League because there was visuals that tell you, like, it when you look at team fights, it's really easy to track team fights visually because usually you can tell if a champion is CC'd or if they're like low health, what abilities they're using. This just helps when you're against stuff like Kale, stuff like Tarek, to be able to see if they're immune or not. Just to be able, in the cluster of the team fight. I think it's nice. Not going to be a big deal, but nice. Ooh, let's talk about Rank Decay. Okay. So Rank Decay, I think some people might not like this because it means that there are a lot of people beforehand that use the ladder to essentially grind up with groups of people and then sit on their LP. There's a bunch of players out there that do that, and I don't think that's bad of them. However, I think that if Riot's going to reward people with rewards for the ladder for the top 200 players, they need to be able to enforce that the ladder is exactly what they want it to be, which is essentially because they enforce solo queue at, I guess, Challenger and up, that they want the ladder to be for the best solo players. Because of that, they need to make a way to decay people who duoed or trioed or quadra-queued their way upwards. I think they're really mad at people at that. Essentially, after the patch, essentially just sit on their LP and whatchamacallit, they don't even have a solo dynamic preference badge yet, a solo or dynamic, because they just haven't played enough games. And you could do that if you only played one game every, like, I think 10 or 14 days. And so I think the way that they changed the decay system, so let me explain. It's a deposit system where technically you can store 10 games. However, you need to play one game a day or else like one banked game a day is removed. So if you want to wait for 10 days before you play on an account, you need to play 10 straight games. I think that this is a really nice decay system. I definitely approve because it doesn't really punish people who play a lot, even for multiple accounts. Because if you play 10 games, it's essentially 10 days where you wait where you don't have to play. That's a day of playing essentially. I within a 10 game period. I understand that some people can get annoyed by this, but I think that if Riot really wants to enforce the fact that their ladder means something, they need to do some sort of decay system like this. So this only affects Master Challenger players, and it starts when the number of bank games reach 0. They'll be incur 100 LP per day until they bank games, and they're tracked in League tab. Okay, I think that this is a really good system for them to include into their rank system, and I'm actually really encouraged to see something like this because it'll force people on the ladder to just play nonstop. If you're looking to go climb the ladder in Challenger, you should be happy because it forces everyone else to play as well. And hopefully this will mean that the relative quality of my games will increase as the queue time decreases as well. Cool. I think that that's really nice. There's a bunch of bug fixes. Usually I don't go over these because most of them aren't super big. I know there's an exception where Graves auto applies individual stacks of Cleaver. That was really important. But for the most part, most of these bug fixes are just small stuff. Okay. Well, that was... Read the first one. Fix a bug where Secret Stash wasn't extending the duration of refillable potion. A refillable potion, Hunter's Potion, or a Corrupting Potion. What is the Secret Stash? Oh, it's the Mastery. I thought it was doing this. Okay, well that's actually pretty nice. You get a little bit more sustain in lane. I think that's probably the biggest one. I thought it was extending. That's what people were telling me, but I always took it with the idea that it was. But now that it is actually extending, that's nice for me to know. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. That was my 6.18 patch note preview. Overall, I really like the changes to Reksai, changes to Ashe, changes to Gnar. They essentially nerfed a lot of really, really strong champions and you might see other champions rise up because of it. And I think that's nice. I think that the patch itself kind of smoothed out a lot of lanes with low champion diversity. I'm hoping that we'll see champions, for instance, like Zac, pop up in games, or like C9 plays Zac already. And I would have liked to see nerfs onto champions like Graves. However, I understand that it's not a big deal. Like, it doesn't seem much playing competitive. However, I do think Graves is one of the strongest solo queue junglers at the moment. I think did they re-put every melee champ as a 175 range? I remember when Yasuo and Fizz having 175 range used to be absolutely broken in melee matchups, because you would just be able to outspace them in like small micro situations when they're doing 1v1s. Move speed 340. Okay, whatever. Let me ignore this. Let's just look at the abilities. 4 Mistwalkers with dies near Yorick will leave a grave. Every 12th unit that dies? That's so many. Is it enemy unit? That's 2 waves. Okay, so every 2 waves he gets 1. 110. Its Q spawns 1 if you last hit with it, so. But I thought the passive spawn would be a little bit higher. Cooldown is 7, 6.5, 6, 5.5. Mana cost is really low. That's the first thing I noticed, is that it's definitely something that you can use the last hit a lot with, because anytime the mana cost is this low, you kind of don't have to worry too much about it. It's cool. Oh, it also gives you sustain on last hit. And it's doubled when below half health. Really nice when you're pushed in and you're farming. The heal value scales with level. Right? This is the only reason I'd have this much scaling. Huh, I didn't realize he had sustain tied in with his kit as well. 140 total AD, that's so much. Wait, is that correct? 130 plus a 1.4 AD ratio? Oh, that's actually a really high number. A super high number. Oh, let me put this on real quick. Wow. He might scale really well with AD. Yeah, that's an extremely high AD ratio. Usually, if it's like this, it'd be like maybe bonus AD or something like that. But total AD is pretty crazy. Someone's a destructible wall with 2, 2, 3, 3, 4 health. That's really unique. When they have the health scale like that, usually what Riot does is they do like 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4. When you do stuff like 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, sometimes it means that this is one of the only abilities in the game where you might want to skill to a certain level and go back to something else. For instance, the difference between skilling it between level 2 and level 3 means that it's what, 33% more effective, something like that. That's a lot. So if you want, you might even be able to sit on it at like level 3 and then move to do your other stuff. I'm really surprised. They never do this stuff. Or they've never done this stuff in the past. It's just really, really strange. I think this is one of his best kits. Like Jarvan pays this is Jarvan's ulti on a range cooldown, essentially. So it's an ability where you can kind of make stuff work out. Obviously, it's not going to be very good in team fight scenarios where it'll break pretty quickly to people attacking it. But even if it sticks on them for 1 second, you might enable comps. I remember when Rumble Jarvan was a really big deal, and a lot of that was because Jarvan ulti set up Rumble to do really good things. I'm not saying you can run Rumble Yorick because that would require Yorick to be like, or Rumble to be in the jungle or something really awkward like that. But I think this is a very, very one of the strongest utility moves in the game. It's very similar to when I look at Veigar box. Like part of what makes Veigar really good is the fact that this box is an ultimate level in terms of CC. I don't think this is as good, not nearly as good. However, it reminds me of the ability. Morning Mist, so 50 to 70, 15%. Wait. It does 15% current health. And there's a flat... Oh. Okay. What is... Right? Okay. I understand why it does percentage health, but it's always scary when I see percentage health being done. That means he'll play very well into tanks, I think. They're hasted by 20%. Why is it flat? It's not even scaling upwards, so you can leave this as a 1-point wonder if you wanted, but it's okay. It's a 50 damage, 70 damage nuke at 1 with a second cooldown. That's decent. It's not bad. Ulti, he summons 2 to 4 Mistwalkers. I'm gonna get Yasuo, so I'm gonna go Exhaust. Yasuo Hecarim, super easy choice for me. Exhaust is king. Cooldown starts with a maiden dies. Okay, so that kind of sucks. It means you kind of have to wait for it to die before it goes down. I kind of wish that you didn't have to wait, but I guess you could stack maidens that way. When Yorick damages the maiden's target, he will deal... Wow, it does percentage max health? This actually makes his 1v1 really, really good. If he's able to AoE down the other abilities or other stuff nearby, he does a 1v1 where his maiden hits him and he's stuck in the pit of despair. I can't tell if this champ is going to be good. This is one of those champions where he has so many different numbers, a lot of percentage scaling in terms of health, items. He seems like he has decent laning. Like his mana isn't going to be an issue when he lanes. I'd like to see how he plays out before I make a better statement, but I think that he's at least cool. He has a very unique kit. Both his eulogy, his ulti, as well as his W, allow him to be used in different ways than any other champ in the game. Let's go with the game. Oh, man, I can't believe I missed the Q. I was a little bit off.